The Houston Texans have fired Lovie Smith. A year after they fired David Culley,
Mhm.
they scrambled to hire Lovie Smith, who has not been a head coach since 2015.
He was coaching the University of Illinois before
Mm-hmm.
he was hired by the Texans.
They scrambled to hire him after the Brian Flores lawsuit included the Houston Texans. Brian Flores was accusing the NFL with a lot of credibility, evidence, just obvious validity of racial discrimination in hiring practices. So the Houston Texans said, "Oh, damn, we were trying to hire Josh McCown because he likes to pray with the owner, even though he has no head coaching experience whatsoever, and that might look really bad. And we just fired a black head coach who was clearly set up to fail in the tanking season after a one undone. Oh, okay, let's find a black guy and hire him."
Yeah,
I'm sorry, that's what happened.
The optics wouldn't work for our white church buddy just yet.
Yeah. So we'll delay it a year. We'll delay it a year, and then we'll fire him after 1 year. The last time that there have been two back-to-back one-on-one, one-and-done head coaches. Since the merger in 1970, the San Francisco 49ers.
It was Chip Kelly and Jim Tomsula, right?
That happened, yes, 2015, 2016. They were the only team that had done that before in 79 and 78. So those are two instances of back-to-back years, and the Niners had both done that. The Tomsula, that one made sense.
Yeah, Tomsula was not
cut out for that. Nice guy, but anyway, long story short, it's a very rare situation.
Oh yeah.
But now the Texans have added their name to that list with and I underscore that rarity just to say that that he was clearly the fall guy, Lovie Smith. He was clearly, I think he kind of knew what he was getting into to a degree when he got hired. You don't see the terms. This is not to blame him at all. He should take whatever job he wants. Like, it is completely on the Texans. But I'd imagine they hired him knowing they could get him cheaper. Coach salaries are not publicly disclosed. So perhaps the contract was structured in a way where Lovie Smith knew, like, maybe I'm just like a stopgap, whatever. It doesn't mean that the process is in any way less racist. Like, they used him. They used him, and they used David Culley in a way that I think just provides another piece of evidence to Brian Flores' lawsuit. And the lawsuit, this is what people miss. It's not just about who you hire. It's when you hire black coaches, what do you hire them for? In Brian Flores' instance, they hired him because, according to the allegations, Stephen Ross was trying to tank and was offering to pay him money so that he could look really bad and never get hired ever again, Brian Flores, because they would go, "Oh, he went 0-16 as the head coach of the Dolphins. Why would we ever give him another opportunity?" He was hiring the black guy to tank, and then he would fire him and move on to the next guy. And this is exactly what happened here with the Houston Texans. It also happened to Steve Wilkes with the Arizona Cardinals.
Yeah, they fired him after a year.
And Wilkes may not get another opportunity, despite turning that terrible Carolina Panthers team around, doing a way better job and almost winning the division.
Than Matt Rule ever did with the 2 years he had.
And so this is a systemic problem, and the Houston Texans, a racist organization where the owner says, "I don't want the inmates running the asylum," in reference to protests about racial discrimination when it comes to Colin Kaepernick. That guy just hired two black head coaches in back-to-back tanking seasons and fired them both, and they announced this in the middle of Sunday Night Football, so nobody would really report on it, and it would go a little bit under the radar. It was a big game for the Lions, or really for the Packers. And
it was actually his son, though, because he died.
Right. Oh, so
yeah, Cal McNair, Bob McNair, who made the inmates. No, but that's what I was going to say is, like, it's needless to say, it's stayed in the family.
That's that organization is really what I meant to say.
Absolutely.
But the point being is that this stinks of systemic racism and just general grossness. And I don't know. I know that D'Amico Ryans, I think, has said publicly, "I don't want to go there." Like,
I wonder why.
Who the hell wants to go to your organization? Not that you'd hire a black guy. I know that you're like now you're going to hire your church buddy, and you can do a prayer circle or whatever. But like, I don't know who, like, I don't think Josh McCown will do a good job without ever being a head coach. We're seeing Jeff Saturday screw up the entire situation in Indianapolis.
Kind of helps to have a little experience.
You might need to have experience leading men and actually being a coach. So it's gross. I don't know how they attract any talent on the coaching side to come there unless you give them like a 6-year guaranteed contract or something like that. But I don't see the Texans doing that because I don't think it's an organization that's actually invested in winning.
And this is a similar thing that when it comes to the Colts as well, it's a huge bummer because towards the end of the season, Lovie Smith was coaching these guys up, and they were remaining competitive in games against the Chiefs and games against the Titans. You know, they won this last game of the season and went for it on the 2-point conversion. Yes, did it give them the second overall pick? I don't think any of those guys particularly cared.
No,
you know,
good for Lovie. Good. Screw that asshole out of the first overall pick.
I don't think Lovie Smith had any reason or any obligation to help Cal McNair and the ownership group for the Texans to suck enough because they don't want to put a winning football team out there, and they basically pity hired him because of all, like you said, the bad optics that came from the Brian Flores debacle that the NFL has. He coached up guys who are playing better than I would ever anticipate them to, and you know, a wide receiver Chris Moore, running back Jordan Akins. I mean, these guys are not heralded guys, and they were playing really hard. And
I mean, they have
Laramie Tunsil is one of the best offensive linemen in the league, and they don't deserve this. They don't deserve to be jerked around like this because the Texans don't know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, there are. I mean, they've gutted their roster, but there are still men and players on that team and people in that organization who deserve to be respected and treated with dignity, not just human beings and pieces that you can shuffle around and ruin their careers just so you can get a better draft position and end up like evading litigation for your fucking racism.
Right. Yeah, bad vibes all around for the Texans. Shame on you. Shame.
And I'm waiting for the next NFL player that the Texans want to draft. They want to draft a quarterback. They want to draft Bryce Young. They want to draft C.J. Stroud. I hope that they get strong agents and those guys say, I'm not playing for this racist organization, because that's coming next. Eli Manning did it for his career, and he said, I don't want to be a part of the Chargers because there was like a public feud between head coach and the GM at the time, and the Chargers just like are not a very good organization.
They suffer from similar problems. They have suffered from similar problems in the past.
Eli flexed his muscle, but he had the ability to do that because his brother was in the league, his father was a quarterback. Right. They were wealthy already. They knew what they were doing, knew the business.
They didn't need to just jump at an opportunity.
Yes.
It wasn't
but
first money they've ever
with
seen.
This NIL stuff, players are going to get more money, they're going to get more business savvy, and they're going to understand they can do this too. This will come. The chickens will come home to roost for this team. They deserve it for it to happen because this is a racist organization with an owner that deserves everything that's going to come to him when players eventually say, I don't want to play for that dog shit team.
Yep.
They probably should have been number one on the bad vibes.
Yeah, I think our tenor of the conversation made it so that they probably were number one on the bad vibes list at the end of the day.
Yeah.